Good morning. This is Dan Mitchell, TTA for the Mid-South and Delta regions, and Corey Prosser from Ohio. And I will be presenting the Mix Matters 101 this morning with a little help from Logan Vaughn. So as we begin, we will exchange voices back and forth here. So bear with us, and Corey, it's all yours.
All right, well, just welcome everybody on to this Mix Matters call here today. I guess me and Dan, like he said, we're going to kind of go through this. I'm going to talk a little bit about here on the front side about just kind of some of the things of what Mix Matters is and those type of things. So first thing that you're kind of seeing here is the productivity challenge. And this is kind of a study that was done. So you can kind of see year over year, the attainable yield goal there is always going up. So every year, you know, our attainable yield is increasing. And then you look at actual yield, which is kind of that, you know, the line below that, that's kind of all over the board. You see it up and down over the years. So you can see we never fully achieve that attainable yield because they're down at the bottom. The dashed line is the yield gap. So you can see every year we always are having a pretty good actual gap between what we could attain and what we actually are. So the biggest thing is we just got to figure a way to kind of, you know, make that yield gap as low as possible so that we're getting the most out of our attainable yield. So that's kind of where this whole idea kind of started. Was you know, there's a lot of things that go into that. So of course genetics is a big one, and that's a lot of what we have to offer is with our seed and those type of things. But yeah, so I guess the challenge is, you know, you got one guy that you've got different types of seed sellers out there, and I'm sure everybody's dealt with all of them. You know, you have a couple different types. You might sell, you know, you got the guy that'll come on and say, hey, I got this great product. It'll go on all your acres, and he's going to try to sell you one product for everything. You know, and pretty much, I mean, that's how a lot of the seed selling has gone is, hey, I want it on this farm, on these acres, under these type of management. But that's not every field. I mean, you have different farms. You know, if your farms are rented ground versus farms that you own, there may be differences in tillage practices and tile management. There's just a lot of different factors that go into it. So that's kind of where this Mix Matters approach kind of really came in, because there's those question acres that are maybe those acres that aren't managed the same, that broadacre hybrid may not be the best option for. You know, there's definitely a mix that should be planted on every farm. So that's kind of where we got with this idea, was to be able to hit all of your acres, not just those certain select fields.
So what is Mix Matters? It's as Corey has outlined, it's a product placement approach that goes into much more detail. Is, as he said, our unique germplasm. We're trying to use hybrids that perform above and beyond what you might normally use, and we're developing seed plans not by farm or on emotion, but by actual field necessity. What this gives us is extra opportunities for improved productivity, and it helps our customer experience. As the dealer takes this program and uses it with his customers, it helps him make choices for those fields to maximize profits for all of his customers on every field. Corey?
I think Logan's going to do the video here.
Yeah, we're going to play the video here.
Yep.
perfect hybrid mix for every field, every year, on every farm. This is the philosophy behind Mix Matters, a bold new commitment to farming from the team who means business at LG Seeds. What sounds like a simple plan for success is actually a complex mix of science and technology that carries LG Seeds, our star partners, and their customers into tomorrow. Through innovative research and hybrid technology, a uniquely diversified product line, dedicated local expertise, and intuitive tools, we are ready to work smarter, dig deeper, and respond faster than ever before. We are so committed to Mix Matters that we won't just do it right, we'll do it best. Thanks to 3 key components designed to minimize risk and maximize potential. 1. Mix makers. This is an exceptional line of key hybrid products mixed into every custom blend to boost overall seed performance and produce higher yield results. 2. Fast Track. Straight out of research, Fast Track products are too good to wait any longer. After rigorous testing and top performance, they are fast tracked for commercial availability so farmers can reap their rewards. 3. Mix Matters Tool. This custom app allows farmers and star partners to quickly and conveniently determine the right mix for every field based on existing data and location-driven information. Through these 3 key components and the core Mix Matters philosophy, LG Seeds is reshaping the future of farming. Every field counts. Every team member makes a difference. And every mix matters. Let's get to work.
Okay, so kind of after that, so just a little bit talking about it, the difference in products that we have, kind of looking at it. So you have your primary hybrids, which, like I said, that's going to be your majority of your products. Those are going to be your mainline products, your high performing, widely adapted products, high volume, market premium type products. So something would be like a 5643 type product would probably fall into that primary type product. As far as support goes, those are targeted, those are familiar to customers, lower volume, specific management advantages, maybe value price. Those may be some of those older products that might be just more regionalized, not something that's as broad acre, but is definitely, it might work on this guy's farm, but not every farm type situation. So then kind of the mix makers that we have there in the middle, that's kind of the new solutions. These are new high volume type products that have key agronomic characteristics and regionally to widely adapted. A lot of these products, when we show you guys the list, are products that we're planting broadacre now. We have them out this year and have really been pushing them broadacre across the board. But those kind of are the mix makers, and then fast track products as well. So would be your primary and your mix maker type products. So
you can see the mix maker list here of all the newer products that Corey just mentioned, all the way from 88 to 118 day product that we are putting in the mix to help fine tune recommendations from all the acres and all the pieces that come into play with each farmer's management situation. So we have a broad list here that fit maybe not everywhere, but there are enough of them that have good geographical fits that we can make a good plan for any farmer anywhere.
And like Dan was saying, here's that list that, he's kind of showing. And if you kind of have, if anybody from Ohio's been at any of the field days or heard me talk about any of those products, there's quite a few on there that we're definitely pushing heavy because of their good products for us. And then we kind of touched on that, the fast track thing. So this is when we find a good hybrid in the research trials and want to bring it on quicker, so we can always get a conventional version into the marketplace quick. And this really broadens our already very strong conventional lineup. So it's given guys more options on that conventional market as that market has been growing over the last couple of years. So these are all unique hybrids that guys can use, and it kind of stretches across that from 84 to 114 day. And there's some pretty strong products in this as well that will fit into quite a few acre situations for a lot of guys. A lot of these products are being tested with traded versions currently, but we wanted to get these products out, get them to growers. That way we can get a better feel for them. Growers can get a better feel for them, and that way when the traded versions do come, we've already kind of got we've got a better understanding of all these products, and so do growers.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because historically we've done it the other way. We would bring out a traded product and then add additional traits later, or learn the product through trial and error. This way we're one step ahead. So what is the Mix Matters tool? What it does and what it doesn't. If you saw the video, it was very simple, on the phone, on your iPad, on your computer, easily accessible. It helps you create customized plans, and it takes into consideration every field's situation and characteristics, and applies those for the product recommendation on that field. What that does is it brings the customer more into the conversation, rather than, well, what's your price? What's your best seller? What's your best corn? It gets away from all those, and it brings him back to, okay, we've got this field, and here are the parameters that I need to maximize my yield on this field. What it doesn't do is edit boundaries. It doesn't create variable rates. It doesn't calculate the crop progress, all of which are neat little pieces of our Advantage Acre program, which are not part of this program itself. So what I'm going to do is walk through an example. And again, this is 101. So we're not going to touch on all the bells and whistles and alternate things that you can do with the program. This is just to give you a taste for how the program flows. If you were to download it on your phone, open it up, this is where you start. So what we will do is walk through several of the steps, and I kind of explain those so that you get a good understanding of where we're at. Click in on your first thing. It's going to give you a terms of service. You're going to agree to that, and then we go to, okay, where do you farm? In this case, I've already plugged in the zip code for my area in Southwest Indiana, and I'm going to base the example on a current customer that I worked with for many years right there. So what we're going to do is go through, and it's going to ask you a series of questions based on your overall management. This is not field by field at this point. This is your overall strategy and information about your operation, and then we go into detail later. So we would start with the basics. What is your farm average on corn and soybeans? You see the slide bars there in the middle. I've selected for this situation 210. 56 is on the soybean yield, and if you see in the fine print, it has defaulted to a 5-year county average. So it does have a starting point that if you're not comfortable setting that number, it gives you a point of reference. So those are the basic beginnings. We would then select our corn traits. In this case, I've done above ground only, basically. However, you could select any of those or all of those because you may have a variety of things going on in your operation, or you may need some different traits. Same thing applies on soybeans, although not as many options. You're either herbicide trait or conventional in that situation. We then go to our overall corn maturity. And again, you have the slide bars, so you can widen those out. You can make it 88 day to 118 day, which I wouldn't recommend, but 110, 115 is generally what we would use here in the Southwest Indiana area on corn. And on the soybean, the disc grower, in fact, does use 3.6s all the way up to 4.6s. Next, we'll get into, again, whole farm management practices. One of the first screen here is corn tillage, whether it's conventional, minimal, no-till. I picked minimal here. Corn nitrogen management. Do you put it on all before planting? Do you put it on early after it's, say, 6 inches tall or a foot tall? And then the other option is after that for a later side dressed application. And then you can put the total pounds. So that's a point of clarification. That doesn't mean that's what you're going to put on anyone at the last application. This would be 225 between all applications. Corn fungicide use, either you do or you don't. In our area, most guys they'll spray some fields pretty much every year, but the majority of guys will be based on weather and scouting as to whether they need to spend the money on fungicides. Drainage comes into play with many of our hybrids, and here's a situation where we take in not just the slope of the field, but the internal drainage. So you run everything from no drainage up to extensive tile drainage. I know, in fact, this farmer has some of his fields that are very, very well tiled and some not so much. So I've kind of taken a middle ground here. You would then choose whether it's irrigated or not. And the last piece is green snap. If you're in open, wider, flatter terrain areas of the Corn Belt, you tend to be more concerned about green snap. However, in our world, in southern Indiana, West Kentucky, green snap may or may not be an issue. Any comments, Corey?
No, it's just like, kind of what you said. This is just the whole farm management. And like you said, you'll show later where you can dial this in field by field. But this is just kind of like you said, the steps that, just your overall management practices. So.
Yep. Okay, what I'm showing here is when I plugged in that zip code, initially it was for Wadesville, Indiana. When you go to create fields, it will initially show a screen like this, which is going to show the common land units for that immediate area. What you would then do is take your cursor or your finger, depending on which application you're using, move the map around and locate your field or fields by that method. In this case, I've moved the map over to, and I found a field here that I know belongs to our grower. It's a 42-acre field. It says, is this your field? Yes or no? Yes, it is. The other piece that we won't go into a lot of detail, but you can actually, for each grower, plug in all of his fields based on public record information we've got through the government and various sources that would actually locate the properties that current user uses. Some of those are not exactly correct. You can add, you can delete, but in this case, again, we're in 101. We're going to just enter one field and we're going to do it manually. So I picked that field. At the bottom, you'll see you can add more fields or not. We're going to say no. Okay, here's the field. And then you have the selection of crop. In this case, I've selected corn. If you just tap on the field, you could get soybeans or other. although other wouldn't give us a lot of information at this point. Soybeans will be ready to roll here pretty soon, but for this conversation, we're pretty much zeroing in on corn. So now is where we get into the fine tuning of field by field. So what it's going to ask, it's going to give you the situation that you plugged in originally for the whole farm, and then you're going to be able to change or alter any of those inputs that you had initially earlier in the presentation. So what we've done here for this particular field, I mentioned that these guys plant 110 to 115, but in this particular field, they're going to narrow it down. They want to look at something in the 113, 115 days, so we pinched that down. The next screen will look something like this, and you can go through from top to bottom. But beforehand, you could actually name this. That will actually come up field 1 there in the middle of the screen. I have named this home field. You can name all of your fields. As you get into multiple fields, this makes the situation much easier to walk through. We're staying with corn. I just mentioned we're going 113, 115 day. Our estimated yield we're going to say is 210. A lot of the same function, or a lot of the same points that I made on the initial situation. Once we get done with that, it will ask you to continue to the seed insights, which is the breakdown of field by field recommendations. We're only going to show one field here. If you had multiple fields, you would have a list of several that you could choose from, or you could alter or customize. So the end result would give you a screen that would look like this. So for this field, based on what we told it at 210 bushels, 225 pounds of N, somewhat average drainage, that LG 5650 would be a very good choice, followed by 5643 and 64C30. It's always going to give you 3 options. You can use those options. You can delete those options. You see the trash can at the side there. Anytime you see a trash can on any function of this program, that is a delete function. So you could click on that and get rid of that if you didn't want that in the final printed out report. So again, 5650 was the product that this program picked for this field based on a 32,000 population, which I feel very good from what my experience is. But what I wanted to show real quickly was if we took this same field or a field nearby and we changed just a couple of options. So what I'm going to say in this example is I raised the yield potential from 210 to 225. We're going to say, oh yeah, we forgot that we've added all this tile to this field. So now it is very, very well drained. We can't get it any better. And then we're also going to, based on that higher yield potential, we're going to throw on a little more nitrogen. So we've gone up to 240 pounds. So by changing those inputs and then rerunning that field, now it's actually selecting 5643 rather than 5650 as the first choice. The reasons for that are the extremely high yield potential of 5643 actually has more top end than 5650. However, the wetter soils are much to the advantage of 5650, and 5643 prefers the well-tiled, drier type soils to really max out its yields. So you could change a lot of different pieces of this and fine tune field by field. Because one issue that we always tend to get into as salespeople or even as farmers is we fall in love with a product. 5643 is a perfect example. A lot of guys will want to plant 5643 on every acre, and that's not what anybody would recommend, but emotionally it's easy to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, on this field 5643 is the #1 choice. However, on this field, to maximize that yield gap that Corey talked about early in the presentation, we're going to use 5650. or we're going to use 62C35 for the different fields to bring that overall average up rather than going across the board with one hybrid on every situation. Any comments from you on that, Corey?
No, I just think it's the neat thing about this tool is, like I said, just the easy use and how you can change it field by field, and just by tweaking just those few things, like Dan showed there, how it can make a hybrid, hybrid recommendation change. And that's really the big thing with it is, it is going to truly select the hybrid that fits each management practice right.
Oh, let me back up. Okay, I skipped through that screen and I apologize. At the end of the program, you will be able to, through an email connection, through an Advantage Acre account, you can send those reports to the Advantage Acre account that's on file and actually print these reports field by field. It's a nice presentation for the dealer to take to the customer and do his proposed orders or his proposals and insights for that field. So how do we get to all these recommendations you just saw us run through? A couple of things. We're using our PCR research, our pre-commercial release plots that we do several of across the Corn Belt every year. We're also taking into account the local soil types from the soil maps that are tied into our Advantage Acre program. And we're taking in the Weather Trends 360 information based on the forecasted trends for next year's growing season. So that's all been taken into account. It's taking the weather, it's taking the soil, it's taking our information, and then it's taking your crop production practices and fine tuning all of these to help make that last decision. The neat piece is, as Corey and I have been dealing with as the local team agronomists, we are able to fine tune these products to fit our regions as they need to be. A good example of that is LG 5590 is a tremendous hybrid in Ohio and even in eastern Indiana. It just excels in those soil types. However, when I bring it down into Kentucky or further west, it's a good hybrid. It's not as good a hybrid. So it's a situation where I would rate it differently in West Kentucky than what Corey would in Ohio. So that actually does customize this thing down to the T. Some of the factors that we have gone through as TTAs, and we have rated and weighted each of these hybrids based on all the factors you see on this screen. So it's not just a one or two item selection. We're taking into consideration all of these things for each and every hybrid against each of its competitive hybrids within our line. So you can see population, tillage, when you plant, nitrogen program, your field drainage, a lot of different items go into the selection or the weighting of the answers that you get from the Mix Matters tool. Just a quick example here, based on what I was showing or telling you a minute ago, 5650, 5643, you can see from a population standpoint, the 5650 is more stable across the board and tends to excel or keep its yields at higher populations, whereas 5643, being a very, very flexible hybrid, needs to moderate those populations, and it's not as good at the higher pops as it would be at the mediums. And again, soil types, as we change there's not a lot of difference between the two, but very good stability between both hybrids. This would point out, as I mentioned in my example a minute ago, that there is more top-end yield potential on 5643. As you see, once we get into the highest yield environments on the far right, that we have a 66% win ratio at 5643, while 5650 is very, very good on its own at a 57% rate. That's why the program picked in the higher yield environment 5643 over the 5650, even though both hybrids are very, very good in their own right. So as we wrap up here, I mentioned a couple of times you can download the Mix Matters tool very easily. If you have an iPhone, go to the App Store, just plug in Mix Matters tool, it'll pop up, it downloads pretty quickly, and the minute it hits your phone, it's ready to use. Android users can use the Play Store. You can also load it on your computer. You can link it to your Advantage Acre account, or you can create a new account, or as we just pointed out, you can use it as a guest. It's very simple. Follow the prompts. It takes you home. So with that, I would like to wrap up here. Any closing comments, Corey, from your end?
No, just kind of the thing I've kind of told guys. I said the neat thing about this tool is, like you said, we've had our own input as far as ranking these hybrids, and 5590 was a great example that you gave there. But really, it's kind of unique because I said it's kind of almost like having us in your pocket. Having the agronomist in your pocket as far as making a hybrid recommendation. We're not always going to be able to be there with the dealer, or we may be busy type thing, and you're sitting there with a grower, and you want an answer then. Some guys want that answer when they're sitting there to take that order, and this is something that can kind of give you that confidence and help you make sure that you're making the right selection, because if we were sitting there, it's probably going to be what we're going to recommend, since how we're the ones that put these ratings in for these products.
So, and a key point that we have been asked at several points through this whole presentation, or as we put this tool together, is, well, my gosh, we don't need a salesman anymore. And that's not the case at all, because what this does is it adds to the credibility of the LG agronomists, the LG salespeople. You're never going to replace the personal touch or the subjectivity that you have with a human versus a computer program. So this will never replace our LG SAMs, but it will help them and their dealers do a better job of recommending hybrids and learning those hybrids and the ins and outs of each one of those. So unless we have any questions, we will conclude this day, or this series for today. And again, I mentioned this is 101. I passed over some details and some other, I will call bells and whistles in the program that you can do once you get comfortable with just these basic options. So have a good day. Use the tool. If you have any questions, please call your TTA or your salesman, and have a harvest. Thank you.